back about 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, I realized my skin just didn't really look that glowy anymore. It was kind of sallow and dull and blah, perimenopause and starting into my menopausal years. My skin really had a big shift and a change. And I'll show you a picture here. All those hormone changes and just the photo aging catching up with me had really started to show. So that's why I started my vitamin A journey. And I spoke with my dermatologist about getting on a prescription formula. So I got my prescription and I applied it. And about 3 days later, contact dermatitis. I was a wreck, so irritated, and I have sensitive skin, so that was the reason I was a little nervous about starting it anyway. My skin was a disaster, so I put it on the shelf almost for a year. And I was like, I just can't tolerate this. I don't have the right kind of skin for this. I guess I'm just too sensitive. And then I realized that I just hadn't gotten enough education. My dermatologist at the time just didn't take the extra few minutes to really educate me on how to apply it, how best to apply it, and how I could avoid irritation. So the idea with Retin-A or vitamin A derivatives is consistency over irritation. I'm going to keep saying that through this video. That is the way to get through this. So why would I even bother with a vitamin A derivative? Well, there are a lot of reasons. In fact, I believe that SPF and vitamin A are the cornerstones in your skincare routine, especially if you're late 20s, starting into your early 30s. That's when our cell turnover starts to decrease. I really think that's a great time to introduce a vitamin A. There's a whole body of evidence on the benefits of vitamin A derivative, and most specifically the prescription one, Retin-A. So it's a very well-researched topical, and I think that isn't really important to me. It was one reason why it was something I wanted to try, because it had a lot of evidence behind it. Those original studies showed that it improved not only acne, but fine lines, dermal thickness by getting into the dermis. That actually we have receptors in our skin that can receive the vitamin A and get it into our dermal layer to make collagen and elastin change. It also gives a really healthy glow to your skin. Now you want glow, you don't want irritation. So that's what we're after, a healthier glow, improve the sallow, dull look to your skin. Paradoxically, it's anti-inflammatory. So it does help reduce inflammation used in the correct way. It also helps with photo damage, photo age spots. It helps fade that pigmentation that's accumulated over the years from UV damage. So with all those benefits, like why wouldn't you use a Retin-A? Well, again, it goes back to irritation. And so people have sought out different types of vitamin A derivatives to address the fact that the prescription formulas are so highly irritating. So let's jump into the retinoid family. So the umbrella term is retinoids. Then we have retinol esters, retinol, OL. Then we have retinaldehyde, or retinal, AL. Then we have retinoic acids and all their prescription derivatives. Then we have adapalene, which is kind of a branch off the tree. And then next down on the family tree of retinoids is Tazorac, which is used for psoriasis and acne. And then, of course, Accutane, the very strong oral medication for cystic acne. But I want to talk to you about trifarotene, a new kid on the block, came around in 2020. And it is really interesting because it can be used in lower concentrations, which means we can use it on the neck and décolleté and the back, which is very exciting. And of course, it was designed for acne, but it's showing promise with anti-aging benefits. These are areas that typically tretinoin or retinoic acid was way too irritating. And the reason the trifarotene is more tolerable in those areas is the retinoic acid receptors in the skin. We have alpha, beta, gamma, but most of them are the gamma receptors, and that's the one that the trifarotene targets. So you can use a lower concentration of the medication and still get really good benefits. So that's super exciting. I was thinking about talking to my dermatologist next time I go about addressing that, because I have a lot of photo aging damage on my décolleté that I wanted to address, but the tretinoin is really, really sensitive there. You can always try a retinol in the décolleté area. That's less irritating, and I have used that, an over-the-counter retinol in my décolleté without any issues, and my neck area too. So that's another possibility. Let's get into when you cannot use a vitamin A derivative. You would not want to use a vitamin A derivative if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Now, this is controversial worldwide. Medical associations have different opinions on that, but here in the United States, they are not going to recommend that you use a vitamin A if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. Those are the kind of only contraindications, but I honestly believe that if you start with a really mild form of vitamin A that even folks with highly sensitive skin and rosacea can probably get into a Retin-A that's going to work for them. So how do you apply Retin-A so that you can have the consistency but not have the irritation? So let's jump into how you would apply a Retin-A and a few methods that I have used and that I have helped friends use so that who are a little bit nervous about starting a vitamin A routine, that they can get into one that suits them without the irritation, because it really is consistency over irritation, because this is a long game. You're going to be using Retin-A or vitamin A for years to get the results that you want over time. It's not a sprint, like they say. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So let's get into how you would apply Retin-A. So you're going to apply a very small amount of your vitamin A product. You're going to start with a little pea-size amount. I'm going to show you the dot method that I use, and then spread a film of it, a light film or a thin film over your face and maybe just under your jawline. You don't want to get your vitamin A into your neck or decollete area. They don't have enough sebaceous glands to deal with the intensity of the irritation. Now, this trifarotene product, I don't know that much about it, but that is potential for the neck and the decollete. I'm going to actually look into that a little bit further, and if I find more information, I'll be sure to do a little quick video or maybe an update to this video. But traditionally, you do not want to put your vitamin A on your neck or your decollete. Now, they make retinol esters that can go under the eyes and that may be more well tolerated around the neck and decollete. I'm only speaking of the prescription formulas retinoic acid that you want to avoid in this area. Or if you're highly sensitive and just starting out with an ester or a retinol, avoid that area to start. So you want to do the dot method, apply a thin film, let that soak into the skin, and then sometimes people prefer to put a moisturizer on top of that. But even that wasn't enough of a buffering for me for when I started my Retin-A. I had to take another step back and rethink how I'm going to buffer it. And I really didn't get a lot of help from my dermatologist. They were just like, here it is, just apply a little bit, don't apply too much. But of course I did apply too much and got the whole dermatitis, and I'll show you a picture here of the dermatitis that I got. It was not pretty. The fact that I didn't get the education around using the vitamin A was really key to the lack of success that I had. So I think providing a little bit more education, multiple ways to apply it, sort of to buffer that irritation and increase your consistency is the key. So you can apply it in the light film dot method and then apply your moisturizer, or if that is even causing irritation, what you would want to do is do your cleanse, put a light moisturizer. I started with a CeraVe or a Vanicream, a light layer of moisturizer. I let that dry down, then applied my topical vitamin A, let that soak in, and then did a moisturizer. That's the sandwich method that you'll hear a lot of people talking about. That worked lovely for me for, I would say, a good year and a half. I used that method to really get into my prescription vitamin A, to get my skin acclimatized to that. Another idea that I have had, or I've read about that has been working for a friend of mine who was really worried about starting a vitamin A, is the masking method. And you may not have heard about this. I haven't heard too many people talk about it, but it really worked for her. What she would do is she started with a retinol, an over-the-counter, very low percentage retinol. I believe it's one of the Olay formulations that we found that worked for her, that didn't have too much of a chemical smell. And she would apply that. She would leave it for 10 minutes and then rinse it off. And she did that 3 times a week to where her skin would acclimatize to the vitamin A. Sometimes you need to occlude certain areas of your face when you're applying your Retin-A or your vitamin A derivative. You might, the area around the eyes and under the eye, nasolabial folds, and around the mouth. A lot of people cannot tolerate, especially a prescription formula around those areas. The CeraVe healing ointment or any petrolatum ointment type barrier is going to be really helpful for occluding that area so that your vitamin A doesn't creep and cause irritation in the eye area or the nasolabial folds and sometimes around the mouth. Now, I've gotten to the point where I don't need to occlude anymore, but I certainly did for almost 2 years. I protected those areas because they also make retinol that are actually supposed to be applied around the eye area. So it's not that vitamin A can't go around the eye, it's just that it can be more irritating around the thin areas of skin around the eyes. So it's not like a no-no, but it is something that you want to be really cautious about, especially when you're first starting. So that gets me to the point, like, what do we need to avoid when we are using a vitamin A? Well, number one, you probably don't want, when you're first starting, you probably don't want to be using, you don't want to put your acids away and put your vitamin C away when you're first starting, because those are just going to cause more irritation. Eventually, you could probably get to using an acid in the morning or your vitamin C in the morning and just using your vitamin A derivatives at night. So vitamin A typically should be used in a PM routine. Leave the morning routine for your sort of more protective antioxidants, and your BHAs, AHAs, and your night routine for your vitamin A's and more of your treatments that you might be considering. So you can alternate your vitamin A with a treatment night and a vitamin A night. That's a nice way to do it, but I wouldn't mix them. Some people have really, really tolerant skin and they can do that, and actually some prepping for office procedures, they'll have you use a vitamin C, a fairly strong vitamin C with a vitamin A to even prep for an office procedure. So there are exceptions to the rule, but typically you'll want to have your acids and actives in the morning and your vitamin A at night or on alternating days. And so again, that goes back to consistency over irritation and going low in your percentages and your days of the week, and then increasing slowly over time so that you can build a tolerance. In my particular opinion, that if you're going to only spend, if you have a small budget and you want the most bang for your buck out of your skincare, I think introducing a vitamin A and an SPF are the best place to put your money. Of course, you need a cleanser and you need a moisturizer, but those don't necessarily have to be very pricey items. You can find great moisturizers and cleansers at drugstore prices. But if you're going to really improve your skin, I honestly think SPF and vitamin A are the cornerstones of any awesome skincare routine. So that being said, I want to talk a little bit about SPF. If you're going to start a vitamin A journey, then and you don't have an SPF that you're going to use 7 days a week, 365 days a year, then I wouldn't even start, because the whole point of starting a vitamin A journey is that you're undoing the photo damage that's been caused over years, or trying to prevent any photo damage or minimize any photo damage that you could potentially be getting. And if you don't have a dedicated SPF that you're willing to use every single day, then it's kind of a waste of your money and a waste of your time and a waste of your effort. That's my little plug for SPF. And I talked about what a topical vitamin A is, all the different derivatives, why you would bother, how to apply them, why you need your SPF, and why I believe that SPF and vitamin A are the cornerstones of a great skincare routine. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Vitamin A has been a huge game changer in the look of my skin and the radiance of my skin, and fighting some of those fine lines and reducing the photo damage that I've had over the years. And I just want to reiterate, go slow. Start with a few days a week and then work your way up, because really you're not going to see the difference in your skin in a couple months even. I think it's more like 6 months, a year, and over time. I'll tag a friend who might be interested in this video, and have a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining me. Take good care.